Imagine a future where buying a new Boeing or Airbus aircraft suddenly costs U.S. airlines tens of millions more. A future where airlines delay fleet upgrades, and skilled workers at Boeing's Everett plant or Gulfstream Savannah facility are laid off because the planes they build are no longer price competitive with aircraft made in France, Brazil, or even China. Sounds dramatic? It may already be happening. In today's video, we're digging into complex and potentially devastating effects that newly proposed U.S. tariffs could have on global aircraft manufacturing. We'll look at how these tariffs impact aircraft like the Boeing 787, what they mean for the vast aerospace supply chain, and how they could reshape the entire industry. Now, I want to be upfront here. I try to avoid politics on this channel, but these tariffs and the ripple effects they could create represent a serious and objective threat to the aviation sector. Ignoring them just because it's politically sensitive would be wrong. So, why are tariffs such a big deal? Because aircraft manufacturing isn't just global, it's arguably the most international industrial process in the world. If any industry defines globalization, it's aviation, and trade barriers simply don't mix well with that kind of interconnected complexity. Take any modern airliner. Even if it's assembled in the United States, the parts, systems, and materials that make it fly are sourced from around the globe. Remember the 737 MAX 9 door plug blowout last year? That door was built by Spirit Aerosystems in Malaysia, shipped to Kansas, and then installed in a fuselage bound for final assembly in Washington. Conversely, the center fuselage of an Airbus A350 is made in North Carolina, then shipped to France for integration. Modern airplanes are truly global machines. Trying to build one entirely within the borders of a single country? Almost impossible. Now, let's quickly clarify what a tariff actually is and how it affects what you pay to fly. I'm a pilot, not an economist, so I'll keep this simple. A tariff is a tax applied to goods imported into a country. It's an old idea going all the way back to ancient Athens, where a 2% fee was levied on incoming grain. In more modern times, tariffs were used to protect domestic industries, like textiles in 15th century Britain. Today, tariffs are essentially taxes paid by the company importing goods. That cost usually gets passed on to the buyer, and in our case, that buyer could be an airline purchasing a jet, or ultimately, you buying a plane ticket. Sometimes, tariffs apply to finished products. Other times, they hit each individual part as it arrives. And this is where things start to get really messy. Aircraft are made of millions of components. Tariffs applied across each part could massively inflate the cost of production. It's not just about parts, either. Aircraft manufacturers like Boeing and Airbus rely on just-in-time logistics, a strategy to avoid overstocking, reduce costs, and meet tight production schedules. Engine components might be flown in and installed the next day. Landing gear might be assembled in Canada, tested, and sent directly to the U.S. for final integration. Disrupt that system, and you disrupt everything. We saw this during the COVID-19 supply chain crisis. Tariffs would add similar and possibly worse. Delays. Then there's the issue of materials. Aerospace-grade titanium, aluminum alloys, carbon fiber. Many of these are refined or mined overseas. U.S. suppliers either can't meet demand, or can't match the quality or price. And many of the high-precision machines that fabricate aircraft components are themselves imported or contain imported parts. Simply put, global trade isn't optional for aviation. It's essential. Now, in theory, tariffs are meant to protect domestic industry. But in aerospace, they can do the opposite. Because aircraft manufacturing is so globally integrated, tariffs can end up hurting the very companies they're meant to help. Let's consider future aircraft projects. Developing a new jet is already a decade-long process. If airlines fear ongoing tariff uncertainty, they might hesitate to commit to launch orders, delaying development or killing it altogether. And here's where it gets even more urgent. Boeing is the largest U.S. exporter by dollar value. Its orders from foreign airlines are often worth billions, sometimes negotiated directly by heads of state. But retaliatory tariffs could jeopardize those deals. If Boeing can't sell to China, Europe, or Africa, or can't afford to import critical components, it may have to cut production. And those job losses wouldn't hit overseas. They hit Kansas, South Carolina, and Washington State. The same applies to Gulfstream, Spirit AeroSystems, Honeywell, and an entire web of subcontractors that supply them. If these tariffs go into effect, companies will face two bad choices: raise prices dramatically or make deep cuts to survive a drop in demand. There's also a financial time bomb ticking in the background: delivery backlogs. Let's say an airline ordered a new Airbus A321neo today. They wouldn't receive it until around 2032. But the bulk of the price is paid at delivery, not order. If tariffs suddenly make parts more expensive during that gap, a manufacturer like Boeing could end up losing money on each delivery. Switching suppliers or reshoring production isn't quick or cheap. It takes years and billions to build new facilities, train workers, and get new systems certified. That's money that won't go to R&D or safety improvements. And for a company like Boeing, which is already under financial and reputational pressure, that could be devastating. Even Airbus, though European, assembles A320s and A220s in Mobile, Alabama. Thousands of Americans work at that facility. But while the final assembly is in the US, the supply chain is still global. Wings come from the UK. Avionics are sourced from the US, France, and Germany. Engines are built by GE and Safran in a joint venture, or Pratt & Whitney, which still depends on German components. So those tariffs? They'll hit Made in America Airbus jets, too. And it's not just the big players. Gulfstream business jets, built in Georgia, also rely on foreign parts and are sold globally. The same is true for every corner of the aviation industry. Now let's zero in on the Boeing 787, one of the most globalized aircraft ever made. It's Boeing's flagship long-haul jet and a poster child for international collaboration. The nose is built in Kansas using imported composites. Wings are from Mitsubishi and Kawasaki in Japan. The horizontal stabilizer and center fuselage come from Italy. Engines are from Rolls-Royce UK or GE US. Avionics from Honeywell US, Thales France, and others. Cargo doors from Saab Sweden. Landing gear from Japan, the UK, and France. Imagine putting a 10 to 25% tariff on all those parts. Or worse, imagine losing access to export markets in Europe or China due to retaliation. The financial impact escalates fast. Worse, those costs may not be absorbable without cutting corners. More likely, they'll be passed on to airlines and eventually passengers. And changing suppliers isn't just about sourcing. It requires recertifying every component, a process that can take years. Could the US build every part of a jet domestically? In theory, maybe. In practice? Not anytime soon. Planes aren't t-shirts. They require meticulous design, testing, and global certification.